Crash Bandicoot 3 was arguably one of the best platformers on the original PlayStation. It built upon its predecessors, combined elements of both together, and still found a way to shake up the formula with vehicles, power-ups, and time trial relics. But after this and CTR, Naughty Dog moved on to other things for the next generation of consoles. But everyone was expecting a Crash game on PS2 because himself and Spyro had become unofficial mascots for the original console. So as 2001 rolled around, Crash finally got the next generation game that everyone had been waiting for in the way of Wrath of Cortex, and the response was mixed, but surely it can't be that bad. From looking at it online, it just seems like it's another set of levels for an expanded Crash 3, and it was made by Traveller's Tales, the company who would go on to make the LEGO Star Wars games. But just to be sure, why don't we take a look for ourselves? Also, if you want a fun game, take a shot, or I don't know, punch yourself in the groin every time I mention Crash Bandicoot 3. Let's add 3 to the tally so far. Our story this time around is similar to our usual affair for this series. Cortex and Uka Uka are trying to take over the world, but Crash keeps defeating them, so along with all the villains from Crash 3, they come up with yet another scheme. This time, Cortex has been working on a new Bandicoot to take the place that Crash was originally meant to. Alongside this new Bandicoot, Uka Uka reawakens some of the most dangerous beings in the whole series, the Elementals. These are 4 masks which, as the name suggests, have different elemental powers, being able to control water, earth, wind, and fire. These masks are voiced by some iconic actors, so it's a shame that they end up really quite underused in the plot. We have Rocco, voiced by Thomas F. Wilson, famous for playing Biff in the Back to the Future series. Wawa, voiced by R. Lee Ermey, who, let's be honest, I don't need to introduce R. Lee Ermey to anyone.
Now let me see your war face!
Let me see your war face! Pyro, voiced by Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill. And finally Lolo, voiced by Jess Harnell, who I didn't know by name, but I certainly knew his work. Famous for voicing Wacko on Animaniacs, and would later go on to play Crash Bandicoot himself in the Insane trilogy and in Nitro Fueled. As I said though when I covered the original Crash trilogy, you don't play Crash for the story, you play it for the gameplay. But I would be doing the original games a disservice if I didn't mention the fact that this story is significantly worse from anything on the PS1. The game is set up the same as Crash 3, with a warp room split into 5 sets of 5 levels, making up a total of 25. These levels vary in theme and style, which keeps the jumping and box breaking fresh. It's really difficult to describe the experience of playing through these levels, so what I'm going to do is run you through the first, hub world, and you'll see just how jarring it is to go from one stage to another. For stage 1, we jump into Arctic Antics, which is a standard Crash platforming affair, and upon starting this level, we come across issue number 1. The game is quite slippery. Back in my video talking about the first 3 games, I described Crash in the first game as a heavy fucker. Crash 2 and 3 managed to tighten things up a bit and make Crash a lot easier to control. Wrath of Cortex unfortunately dials back and loosens the controls again. I died quite a few times by managing to over-jump the platform I was aiming for because of how floaty the jump was. The slide jump also doesn't feel anywhere near as good as it did on the PS1. The slide jump is a very delicate balance in Crash. It gives a boost to the forward momentum of your jump at the cost of having a sudden burst of speed before you leave the ground, which if misjudged could lead to a number of deaths. Here the slide jump has no momentum to it. You slide and then get dragged up into the air instead of a nice smooth motion. You can see it every time I use the slide jump, it just looks awkward. This led to me not wanting to use it, and the game never encourages its use in any of the levels or bonus stages in the same way that Crash 2 or 3 did. The slide jump is now just an option you can use if you want to jump less efficiently than normal. This stage is a good opener to get us back into the swing of things. You can break all the boxes to get the gem, and you can get a coloured gem by getting to the no death route. Something this game does better than previous ones is that deaths in a bonus level no longer result in a life loss in the main level, so you can retry the bonuses as many times as you need to without having to worry about getting a game over. The level is nothing spectacular, but it's the first level, so hopefully the next one builds off of it. So naturally our second level is a vehicle stage in a plane. Okay, I mean these were in Crash 3 as well, but I was hoping we could expand on the platforming a little first before we start adding in variety. Level 3 is another new gameplay style, Super Monkey Bandicoot. I like the ball rolling stages. The ball isn't super uncontrollable and the physics feel just right with how your momentum shifts when changing directions. It's a bit of a pain to do that right enough, but you're never forced into any super tight platforms, so it's all good in my books. Level 4 is another good platformer, and level 5 starts as a minecart but quickly goes back to being another good platformer. This kind of pace continues, but the vehicles and gimmicks get more and more prominent, with a mech, a buggy, a sub, this weird bug thing, and it makes the later levels just such a pain to play through, because at the end of the day I'm playing Crash Bandicoot because I want to play a platformer, not some mishmash collection of gameplay styles thrown into one big melting pot. And the thing that makes it even worse is the fact that the platforming, the thing I'm playing the game for, is not as tight as it was on the previous generation of consoles. The vehicle stages are weird, because while these are all cool ideas that in a better made platformer would be interesting ways to break up the usual stages or to spice up otherwise unremarkable levels, here they become cumbersome and tedious, with them way overstaying their welcome or being irritating to control. The sub is a tricky one to nail down, but if I had to name the biggest problem with it, it would be this. It's so goddamn slow to react to input. This could be a consequence of it being an underwater level where the controls are at their worst even when swimming on your own, but this feels particularly unresponsive. If you're going full speed ahead and a bomb drops, God forbid you find yourself underneath it when you stop to see what the noise was, because you will not be able to get away in time. You might as well say bye-bye to your pathetic little existence, because the sub is a one-hit kill. Unlike in Crash 3, where the scuba acted as an Aku hit point, this one makes you even more fragile, which killed the pace as I crept along the level at a snail's pace to try and keep myself alive. The underwater stages also have the issue of being way too tall and not nearly wide enough. The amount of times I got hit by things coming from either the top or right side of the screen was unreal, and I had no chance to see it coming. The sub and the underwater levels as a whole were just very frustrating. The bug is the least offensive of the vehicle stages. It's got a really slow attack that you need to hold down X for and then let go once the crosshair's locked onto a target. Wasn't the worst, but I just really wasn't a fan of this mechanic. The buggy wasn't exactly great either. It was certainly the most fun to use when just going through the level normally, but when you try and go for a box gem, it becomes infuriating with its super loose and drifty steering and lack of a reverse button. This means you need to do it in one single go without missing one single box, which means you need to control the extremely slippery driving mechanics, and I think that sentence speaks for itself. The worst by far though, out of everything irritating in Wrath of Cortex, was the stupid fucking clunky as shit, slow as hell, fragile as a Lego cabinet with several Lego Imperial Star Destroyers on it, mech. Picture this, you've been playing Crash Bandicoot and it's been an okay journey so far. You've had a good enough time destroying boxes and collecting gems. Got it? Now take those not quite perfected yet basic mechanics of jumping and breaking boxes and make them 10 times more of a pain in the ass. Let's start with jumping. If you do not move before jumping, it takes about 10 years for Crash to get off the ground with this massive wind-up animation. And then you have all of your momentum going up rather than forward, making any jump near enough impossible. Then let's say you do have a run-up. It's now all too easy to overshoot jumps if they are precise enough. But overall, it's fine, I guess. Like, it didn't stop me from beating the levels, but it was certainly my least favourite thing to do. Now, when it comes to breaking boxes, you can jump on them, but since that is precise, you're better just running into them. But for nitro crates, that's not an option. So how do you get rid of those? Well, luckily you have a built-in Wumperfruit cannon. This works by holding down the square button and then letting go when you're aiming at a target. The problem comes when you are aiming at a target and the thing just decides not to fire, which, while it didn't happen frequently, it happened a few times, which made me wish I was just running about on foot with my full moveset available to me. All these vehicles really just suffer from limiting what you can do, as your moveset as Crash is so much better for dealing with everything that you would do in, say, the sub or the mech, so they just end up as a hindrance rather than an interesting change-up or an enhancement to the gameplay. Speaking of interesting change-ups, for the first time ever in this series, we get to play as Coco in proper platforming levels. We got to play as Coco in Crash 3, but only in the Tiger and Jet Ski levels. Here we get to actually play as her in normal Crash levels. She plays a bit closer to Crash 1 with no slide and no extra power-ups. She can run, jump and do a spin kick instead of sliding. This is a fun change up at the very least on the visual front, but also it changes how you interact with the stages since you have a very limited moveset that we haven't had since the first game. Speaking of power-ups, in this game they're fine. The Fruit Bazooka, Double Jump, Death Tornado Spin and Crash Dash all come back from Crash 3, which leaves us with only one new power-up, and it is by far the most useless one. If you hold the L2 button, you can tiptoe along rows of nitro crates. I used this power-up maybe 4 times at most throughout my playthrough, and it was always in bonus stages, not main levels. Even when I did use it in said bonus stages, it was extremely finicky, because if you let go of L2, you die. If you let go of moving, you die. And hell, even here, I made it across the nitro crates. And because I was on the metal crate, Crash started running when I wasn't expecting him to, and I ran straight into the nitro boxes and died, despite the fact that I never let go of L2 once throughout that whole clip. Probably the thing that lets the game down the most is the boss fights. They're all against Crunch using the different elemental masks and then one final fight with all 4 masks being used against you. But while Crash 3 had amazing fights like Engine, which required many retries because of their mechanical complexity, each fight here took several retries just to learn the patterns and get them nailed down. I found them incredibly underwhelming once I had nailed that pattern. It's such a shame as well, because they do use all the mechanics that Wrath of Cortex introduces, and the final fight is an amazing idea of using all the masks against you in a Simon Says type of arena. I'm not sure how I would personally make these fights better, as I'm obviously not a game designer, but there are better fights in here somewhere. They just needed to pull them out a little bit more. With all the main things out of the way, let's move on to the smaller details that I wasn't quite sure where to put them in the script, so they're going here in a numbered list. Ready? Here we go. The game has a lot of sounds that cross over with the LEGO Star Wars games, mainly menu noises. I get that this is probably because they're just in Traveller's Tale sound library, but I still thought it was cool. This box art is lovely. As I mentioned, the game came out in 2001, and if there was ever a title that looked like a launch for the PS2, it would be this one. Unfortunately, my copy of the game is the original black box release and not the Platinum/Greatest Hits version, which means the load times are fucking abysmal, with some of them being up to 40 seconds, which I know doesn't sound like much, but 40 seconds every time you enter and exit a level, times that by 25 levels, leads to a staggering 33 minutes across a 6-hour playthrough. The final thing I want to mention is the time trials. They have returned from Crash 3 and operate in exactly the same way. Hit the clock at the beginning of the level, smash time crates to stop the clock, and try and reach the end as fast as you can, with strategic saving or wasting of Aku Aku hit points to exploit for faster times, with there being 3 tiers. Sapphire for the minimum, Gold for a better time, which are the minimum you need for a full completion, and Platinum, which are near enough perfect run-throughs of every level, and are essentially just a bragging right if you want to go for them. So Wrath of Cortex was a enjoyable, if flawed, entry into the Crash series, but there are certainly worse games that you could play. I don't even just mean in general, I mean in this very series. It could always be Crash of the Titans or Mind Over Mutant, which I am vowing right here and now I'm never talking about, because they just kind of look like generic beat-em-ups with the Crash cast slapped onto them, with some seriously questionable redesigns. Wrath of Cortex feels rushed to market and unpolished, most likely as a result of trying to make a game in a short time frame to still be early on in the PS2's launch. Overall, I had fun playing through Wrath of Cortex, and if you're a fan of the first 3 games, I could definitely recommend it if you want some more solid platforming in the classic formula established by Crash 2 and Crash 3. Assuming that anyone is still watching this to hear this part of the video and you're not either plastered drunk or lying down on the floor in agony from punching yourself in the groin repeatedly, thank you. Thank you for sticking around and watching this video in its entirety to hear what I thought of Wrath of Cortex, and I bid you all farewell. Good night.